Hello again, everyone. This is Fish, and if you watched my last video, we were trying to sell that RTX 2060 Super build, and I was struggling to sell it for a while, but I eventually ended up finding a buyer, and we sold that computer for $690. In this video, I'm going to be building my first gaming PC that has an Intel CPU. I usually always go with the AM4 platform to do budget PC builds to sell, but more recently with the tariffs and the prices going up for PC parts, I've started to notice that some of the Intel CPUs of the older generation are actually going lower in price compared to their AMD counterparts. So I'm going to see how cheap I can make a gaming PC on the LGA 1700 platform, and we'll see how well it performs and if it will sell. This PC build will consist of new and used parts. Usually I buy the graphics card used as well as the motherboard because I find that these two parts can usually save you the most money if you go the used route. Other things like the SSD, power supply, and the computer case are usually better to buy brand new just because usually the price of buying these used as well as new is such a small difference that you're better off buying the part brand new. Now, as I said before, this is my first time using Intel in a budget gaming PC, and after doing some browsing on different marketplaces, I found that the Intel i3 12100F would be the best price to performance CPU that we could use for this build. Now, I purchased this i3 12100F on AliExpress for around $47, but I didn't realize that this was before the tariffs took effect. So now the same CPU sells on AliExpress for around $87. At that price, I feel like it's more worth it to spend the extra $20 to $30 and buy an i5 12400F off of Amazon. And as of recording, you can buy that CPU for around $108 off of Amazon. To cool this CPU, we'll go with a basic air cooler. I always go with the Thermalright Assassin X120. This all-white cooler looks really good for the build since it's going to be an all-white build, and you can usually find it in stock on Amazon for pretty cheap. For the motherboard in this build, I bought a used Gigabyte motherboard. This is a B660 DS3H AC. This motherboard has all of the connectivity that we'll need. Even though this board was used, it came in perfect condition. The only thing is that it was missing the Wi-Fi antennas, but that's not a big deal because we can find those on eBay as well for roughly $5 to $10. For storage, I went with a Timetech M.2 SSD. This is a Gen 3 SSD with 1 TB of storage, and this is all you need for a budget build. This is a very cheap SSD that's always in stock on Amazon, so I highly recommend it if you're doing budget builds. Now, with the way that the graphics card market has been lately, the best budget GPU option that I could find that wouldn't overpower this CPU was the GTX 1660 Ti. I bought this GPU used on my local marketplace for around $80. And as of recording this, you actually can find this GPU going for even higher prices now. But this is the best GPU that I thought would give a good price to performance for this build at the time. The 1660 Ti is still very capable, even though it only has 6 GB of VRAM, and you're losing out on some of those NVIDIA features since it's not an RTX card. But for an entry-level gaming PC that you want to buy on a budget, the 1660 Ti is still a very good card. You could also go with the 1660 Super since they have basically the same performance. This Gigabyte model that I bought used, I'm going to actually paint white so it can match the aesthetic of my PC build. To power this build, we're going to be using the Thermaltake Smart 600 watt 80 plus white power supply. Even though this power supply is F tier on SPL's tier list, I've never had any issues with this power supply in any of the budget builds I've made, and the price is really good for a 600 watt power supply, and it has a 5-year warranty. If in the future this power supply does give me problems, then I'll definitely stop using it, but until then I'm still going to use this power supply for budget builds. For memory, I bought this KingBank DDR4 32 GB kit of RAM. This RAM kit is clocked at 3600 MHz with a cast latency of 18, and you can find this RAM kit in stock on Amazon regularly for $44. This is a really good deal for DDR4 RAM that has a really good speed, and this will probably be my go-to for budget builds going forward. The only thing is that this RAM kit is silver, so if you want to do an all-black build or an all-white build, it might not match the aesthetic, but other than that, this is a really good deal for RAM. The case that we'll be putting all these parts in is the SAMA 3313 white ATX tower case. This is your typical ATX mid-tower case with a tempered glass side panel. I really like the design in the front, and this case is actually really light, which is surprising. We'll see how easy this case is to build in, and I believe it comes with a ARGB and fan hub, so that's really good as well. And to finish off the build, I'm going to include some white cable extensions from Formula Mod, just to help with that all-white aesthetic. And I'm also going to include a $5 USB Wi-Fi adapter that I got off of AliExpress. And I'm going to include this Wi-Fi adapter since the motherboard is missing the antennas. Now I'm going to get this PC built, and then we'll jump into the benchmarks and see how well this computer performs. we got this computer built, and I think it came out looking pretty good. But let's jump into those benchmarks and see how well it performs. Playing Call of Duty Warzone at 1080p native using the balanced preset, we were getting around 80 FPS and an average of 100 FPS. And even though the GPU and CPU were almost under full load the whole time, the temperatures were staying really reasonable. This computer performed really well in this game, and I was just happy to see that we stayed above 60 FPS the whole time. Playing Apex Legends at 1080p ultra/high settings, we were getting above 100 FPS with an average of about 70 FPS. With this game as well, we were getting almost full utilization from the GPU and CPU, but the temperatures were staying good. Visually, this game looked great, and I was really happy with how this PC performed in this game. Dropping into Fortnite using 1080p performance mode, we were getting well above 100 FPS with an average of around 150 to 160 FPS. And I was really happy to see that with a game that's more demanding on the CPU, this i3-12100F was still performing very well. This combo of this CPU and GPU at this budget is still very capable for an entry-level gaming PC. So I am really happy with how this build turned out, especially for being my first Intel build. Now I know earlier in the video I said that because of the tariffs and the prices recently, I've noticed some AMD CPUs are actually more expensive than Intel CPUs, but as of recording this, that has actually changed again. So I guess you just have to really use your discretion when it comes to finding PC parts. Finding a good price to performance CPU just depends on the deal that you can get at the time. So I guess all I can say is you could use this build as a template for an entry-level gaming PC, but if you find a good deal on a CPU like a 12400F or even a 12600KF, you're better off getting a higher end CPU at a good price rather than just buying this 12100F if it's not for a good deal. Even recently, I was able to score a i5-14400F for around $80. So that's amazing price to performance compared to buying the 12100F at around $50. Either way though, I hope this build guide helps you build an entry-level PC. And if you can use some parts from this build to maximize your price to performance, then that's good as well. If you ever have any questions about PC building, feel free to ask me any in the comment sections of my videos. I hope you all enjoyed this video, and until next time, this is Fish, and try not to get blown up.